Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for joining on time. I hope you guys enjoyed the trailer that we had for you guys that my marketing Jinwen he put on. Okay, let me take over the presentation slide. Okay, so I think before we start, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Joshana and I'll be the host for today. I would like to also introduce my company. Hi, Ivan. Okay, so at Cloudify.Asia, we matchmake businesses with cloud technologies and operating models. So through pay-per-use, managed services, and also consultancy to meet your business objective. So we are partner with HPE, Microsoft, and also Alibaba. So we have served and helped like telco enterprise, cloud providers, technology providers, IT partners, and also government projects. So today our topic will be on-premise to cloud. Is it a one-way street? So we have Bert Lim. Bert is our CTO, which is our Chief Technical Navigator. He has 20 years of experience around software operation, infrastructure, and also management in multiple roles and also multiple companies such as Dell, Shell, GSK, and etc. And then we also have Ivan. So Ivan have more than 10 years of technical training for information technology systems, network, and also security. He has a vast practical experience conducting various technical courses for various industries. So on today's Thursday with Cloudify.Asia, we'll discuss some questions for the topic on-premise to cloud, a one-way street. So we all use cloud services every day, you know, from software and platform applications like Facebook, Dropbox, Microsoft Office 365, to public services like Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, and also Alibaba Cloud. So everybody's like talking about cloud, but what is it? Like, is migrating your IT from your on-premise to the cloud, is it a one-way street? Is it a dead end, or can you actually U-turn? So that's why we have this webinar where our team at Cloudify.Asia, Brett and Ivan, they'll be digging into our archives to share real cloud journeys and their past experience, spanning almost like 2 decades to answer these questions and more. So we'll look into what has worked, what didn't, and how we could have actually done better. So while we share our stories, feel free to take notes and ask questions. If there's any jargon that you don't understand, you can type it in the chat box and then we'll relay them to our speaker. So we're going to start soon. Bert and Ivan, are you guys ready?
Yep, thank you, Joshana. Welcome everyone today. So, I think it's like what Joshana was sharing, I think a very, very good question that everyone wonders is, as we move towards a lot of cloud services, right? Is that the end? Do I stay there? Or maybe after cloud, we will migrate to, a solar system or the star or something like that, later on, right? So I think today myself and Ivan, we'll be discussing around a few common questions that we see occurs quite often in the industry, and hopefully to give everyone some good insights about and some ideas to think about, related back to your own environments, right?
Something just popped in mind. Yeah. Who came up with the name Cloud? Of all the names that have been that can be chosen, why Cloud?
Something that you cannot touch, you cannot go up and touch it, right?
Well, I
think candy or the sun or something like that, but why Cloud?
Sun.
Yeah, I think it starts off, whenever we talk about IT, whenever you come up with a product, before you have it, it's called vaporware, right? So vapor condenses into clouds.
Or before that, you have the mist and the fog and stuff.
Yeah.
That's why we say from what? From cloudy to certainty.
Yep. That is correct.
Okay. Let me start with the first question.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. The first question, I mean, this question will be like some of the question that we think maybe our attendees will benefit from. So I think, let me share, we have been hearing about end users getting bill shock at the end of the month with cloud. So how do we ensure this doesn't happen to us?
Yeah, so I think before we start answering, so I think just to clarify for the audience here, I think if you read in the news, there have been a lot of cases whereby suddenly someone was doing some testing, he forgot to shut off his virtual machine, and suddenly he got hit with a 5,000, 10,000, $20,000 bill, at the end of the month, and he's like, oh my God, I can't pay for this. What am I going to do? So this is what we mean by bill shock, right? Um, it is not. It is quite a common thing to happen, because I believe what I see is that whenever a lot of companies go to cloud, they always forget to set the limits in the billing. It's not to say that we want to set the limit so that you don't operate as you once you hit the limit, but I think the point is to actually help you have a better control, more like a fail safe in case something happens. The reason why is that as we are moving towards cloud, um, if you look at the real actual cloud methodology for adoption and for deployment, right? You're a lot of the rights and the job is done by multiple teams. From your developer teams to your infra teams, they will spin up services as and when required. They will subscribe to additional services to try things out. They will make copies of data as and when they want. It's no longer back to let's say like what 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Whereby everything must go through ITIL, go through your change advisory board. You must gain approval before you make any change, right? When we are now in like the modern agile type of development cycle, it's we want things fast, and there'll be many people who will do things as and when required, right? So because of that, there's a lot of uh, you will have to know how to manage the access controls for everyone, set up billing limitations so that you don't get out of hand and suddenly get hit with a extra 100,000 at the end of a month, and you're not sure where it comes from, right? But maybe Ivan, have from your experience, from training and sharing with so many thousands of students and probably hundreds of companies, what are some of the best practices you could share?
First of all, is that let me share with what happens in class most of the time. During class, especially running like Azure classes, right? And most of the time, these Azure classes, Microsoft official curriculum classes, the participants will be given a sponsored subscription, which consists of certain number of credits that they can actually use to purchase services or to create services or resources in Azure. So the thing is that there's this limited credit limit provided, basically $100 or probably $50. And because of the habit that we actually use from on-prem, it's like whenever we deploy something, we just leave it there, just turn it on and just forget about it, right? So that habit actually carried on when we actually go into the cloud, and especially when we go into the class. So we start creating resources like VMs, we are creating resources like storages and so on and so forth. And by the end of the day, they forgot to turn off the resource. So the next day when they come in and say, half my credit is gone, because the credit is supposed to last them until the end of the month, or at least 4 days, or probably 5 days, or 3 days or plus. Right? But the first day itself, the next day they come into class again, half the credits are gone already because they forgot to turn off the resources. All right, and depending on what they have actually created in class, and that takes up a lot of resources. So one of the things that can actually be done in a way on a real situation is that we can actually have, number one, we can set limits, like what Bert said, is that we can set limit onto create a policy, all right, to set limit on how much we can use. Number two is that we can also take advantages of what they call this, the like hybrid benefits, for example, or we can actually take advantage of different kind of subscription. Yeah, for example, like Azure itself, Azure actually has the most basic subscription is like the pay per use subscription. All right, which means that today I use how much, I pay how much, right? There's other subscriptions that can use, for example, like I can actually have the what they call this, I pay by I do a prepaid, for example, all right, or maybe the type of resources that I create, I would make use of. Let's say I'm gonna guarantee to run for 1 year, or for example, I'm gonna guarantee to run for 3 years, for example. I'm not gonna turn off, and from there I should get reserve instance discounts from there, and that will help me to reduce onto how much I'm going to use in terms of how much I'm going to be charged by the end of the month.
All right, thanks
Yeah.
for sharing. Do you have anything you want to add on?
Yeah, actually that's true. We cannot. We have to look at managing. I mean, it's like cloud is literally like your TNB. It's like our electricity, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like in an office that you have so many light points, you have so many power points and so on around your office, right? And with every staff, they can turn things on and off as and when they need. Okay, but how do you ensure you're not gonna be no? I mean, how are you going to ensure no one brings like a Bitcoin mining rig and plugging it into your into your power and start sucking everything, right? So that is why you have to take the necessary precautions. Learn how to take advantage of subscriptions to maximize it. Put the limits and put the limits in, and also put the warnings and notifications in as well, so that as and when the utilization suddenly spikes, right, you're aware, and you can
one of the
go and
things
think
I
about
like
why. Yeah.
One of the things I like to think about is something like this in terms of how we manage a subscription. It's like, we have credit cards, right? And I know nowadays a lot of us are using like e-wallets and stuff like that. But let's take credit card, for example. So maybe, Bert, you have a credit card. Probably you do a sub card to your wife or probably to your kids. Do you provide credit cards to your kids, Bert?
Oh, no, not
No.
yet. No, they're too young.
They haven't earned his trust yet.
Well, I
don't
think
know.
nowadays
Maybe
everyone has
secretly you do. I don't know.
e-wallets.
Okay, probably e-wallet, something like that. But let's talk about credit card, right? So let's say you're the MasterCard holder, right? You're the principal holder, and then you create this sub card for your loved ones to use, right? So I'm sure that when you create the sub card, do you give limited or unlimited resource or credit limits? I know Bert is very generous.
Well, unfortunately, the bank hasn't given me a limited credit limit yet.
So I think it's like if we use this kind of concept, okay, we actually have this credit cards, all right? So we have this subscription per se, all right? So now we're going to assign this subscription for someone to use, or say, for example, a management group to use, all right? So we can actually limit that subscription on how much they can use per month, all right? So it's like that credit card concept. All right, so I create a sub card. Okay, this sub card I'm gonna get my wife to use this sub card, but I only limit, let's say, 2,000 a month lah. 2,000 a month. Joshana laughing already.
Oh, like, what is this?
Very
I'm kidding. Okay, but I think we get what you mean. So that the management can actually put a limit, also, let's say for their IT, in case that they forget, right? So at least there's two people that is responsible if one's forget.
Right.
Okay, so let's move on to the next questions. So I've heard that by doing lift and shift, we will not maximize our cloud costs. So why should we move to cloud if we are not prepared? So I think I want to also know what is like lift and shift means.
Okay. So I think the first part, lift and shift. Lift and shift is a very common, market terminology whereby you just, without making any changes, move your applications and move your systems from running from one solution off to another, or one platform to another. So it's like, rather than, so like whatever is installed as of today, we'll just take it, lock, stock, and barrel, copy the data, copy the configuration, everything, and move it to a instance on cloud, right? So a lot of customers do that, and in the end, what happens is that when they get the bill at the end of the month, they go like, "Huh, so expensive one, ah," right? I think the reason why is that whenever we are running on-prem, I think there's a few parts. The easy part that everyone is able to measure is your virtual machine. Your how many virtual machines you run, your costs, and so on. How much storage you use. That's all very easy. But one of the most killer is actually when it comes down to your network data egress. There is no real actual tool in the market that really measures your network egress, so that when you go to a cloud, suddenly it's like, oh my God, I'm paying so much for my network egress. It's more than what I expected. That's one. Secondly, is that a lot of solutions that we use on-prem is taken for granted. So, like what I mean is, for example, if we are running like any virtualization, Hyper-V, VMware, and so on, it's very common for us to make snapshot copies of the virtual machines. And by doing so, it's actually free, right? But when you run snapshots, right, on the cloud, you actually have to pay for additional services, right? And then on top of that, the additional storage, you also have to pay for it. So, all these costs slowly add up. So that is why sometimes when you do a lift and shift, you actually pay more than actually maintaining it on site, right? Another common thing that I always tell customers is, before you even look at lifting and shifting, have you done a right sizing on your environment, right? What I mean by right sizing is that, have you done an assessment to see, are you over provisioning? Are you under provisioning? Are you, do you, is your equipment being maximized? You know, so many times in my experience, I've done assessments for customers. Very commonly, I see a lot of CPU utilization is below 20%, on a virtual environment. So what does that mean, right? It means technically I can run double or triple, maybe not quadruple, maybe at least triple the amount of workloads on the same machine before, without before I even stress my CPU out. So do I really need that many servers? Do I really need that big a virtual machine? Probably not, right? But I mean, so I mean, like off to you, Ivan. I mean, what do you think about this? Should you just copy paste?
Mm.
Copy paste it there or not?
So the thing, if I think about lift and shift, is that why should I be going for lift and shift? There must be a reason I'm going for lift and shift. All right. Also, the question comes in place would be is that because the question over here is that when I'm reading onto this is that, so why should we move to the cloud if we are not prepared? Then if you're not prepared, why you move to the cloud? What's the reason why you move to the cloud in that case? Because my
Yeah.
next door neighbor also got cloud, that's why I also want to have the cloud.
Well, I think many times that's why
Yeah.
I think many times I've seen is that, um, because to be fair to many management of many companies, they are not technical people, so of course they don't understand all of this. So to be fair, they may have gotten advice from people who are not very familiar with the cloud. Of
Mm,
course, I mean, from a management perspective, is the idea of cloud is great. I pay only for what I use, right?
right.
The idea and
Correct.
the goal is great,
Right.
but sometimes it's the methodology that you take that actually causes some shortfalls in the end, right?
So I like the term that just now you use, is that the word right sizing is very relevant and very correct, especially when they come into lift and shift. Yeah. So when you say the word right sizing, is that are we choosing the correct component infrastructure that we need when put into the cloud? But to be fair as well, is that when you talk about lift and shift, there are advantages of actually using lift and shift, because that will actually minimize the least will have the least effect on whatever the customer is currently using on-prem right now. For instance, is that if let's say, for example, I have a file server on-prem, right, and want to put it into the cloud right now, I don't want to have major changes. I still want to have something very similar on how my users going to access those files. But it's just that now it's going to be in the cloud. I want to do a lift and shift. Yeah, that's totally possible, lah. All right, but it's just have to then remember that, hey, when we go into the cloud, the main thing you have to remember is that we pay per use, regardless of whatever subscription you use, is still pay per use. Yeah. So what are the components involved that's going to it's going to incur costs onto me, right? So then we need to have the correct advice from the experts around in the area to tell us, to advise us which are the parts. I put things in the cloud. I'm going to create a server in the cloud. I'm going to create a file server in the cloud. I create a storage in the cloud, and stuff like that. How much cost is it going to incur to me? All right, because when you do it on-prem, everything is like we paid already. It's all done, right? But when you go into the cloud, it's something else. Components are different. Let's take a virtual machine, for example. A VM itself is what I call a composite resource, because a VM consists of the compute section. All right, the compute section that includes your vCPU, your RAM. All right, then you have your virtual networks, which is a different resource. Then you have your storage, which is a different resource. But all these three different resources are now assembled together to provide you with the VM service. But each of these three resources will have their own different costs incurred, which you don't see that on-prem, right? On-prem, you just deploy that server, deploy that hardware, deploy the stuff, and it's good to go. And we already paid for it, right? But here it's actually charged differently, right? So in this case, we first have to get the correct advice, all right? Don't just blindly go into it, all right? If lift and shift is going to be the case for you, because you want to have the minimal effect on how users are going to use the service that they're currently using on-prem, well, lift and shift is good to go. Or are there any other options they can use other than that?
Okay, thanks, Ivan. So we mentioned like assessments of for the right sizing. So later on, we might have something for you guys at the end of this. So let's go to the third question. So many corporate customers in the US and what's this? EMEA?
Oh, EMEA, Europe,
EMEA,
right?
okay.
Europe.
Yeah.
Europe. Okay, and then explain to me how does that use Europe? Okay, anyway, are quickly adopting cloud. So why are companies not doing so in Malaysia or in Asia?
Interesting question. Yes,
Why?
but I know you've got a lot to say on this.
Yeah, well, I think we all have a lot to say on this. So, um, I think firstly, of course, in Malaysia, one of the major things is depending on what industry you're from. So a lot of like FSIs are slow on the uptake because of a lot of regulations, right? PDPA, you must have your data within Malaysian borders. Bank Negara ruling. So FSI are not. But if you think about it, a lot of smaller companies have pretty much everything on the cloud, right? Why do you need anything on-prem? You know, like take ourselves for example. We have I think everyone uses Microsoft 365, right? Or also known formally as Office 365. Your major email and collaboration is already on the cloud. What about file shares? With Microsoft 365, you have SharePoint, everything from the cloud. Then what about my payroll, my finance systems? There are so many cloud-based SaaS, software as a service solutions available, right? For all of them. So I would say that in Malaysia, Asia, a lot of like small, medium-sized companies, we are already very into the cloud. But why large companies are not moving to cloud yet, right? Um, it's a lot of I think there's so many so many factors that could actually affect it, right? From I think the firstly is that a lot of people after hearing about all the news of cloud, cloud having bill shock at the end of the month, everyone is worried, right? Second thing is that as I think like what we mentioned, in the last question, lifting and shifting does not equal to saving money, right? You would have to look at how are you going to right size, how are you going to modernize, are you going to re-architect your applications, or rather I mean what I mean by re-architect means, are you going to rewrite or modify your applications to take advantage of cloud native services, like all the application services, all the containerized services available, right? And then to me, another good reason is that if you think about it, right? If I were to subscribe to a virtual machine on cloud, I think the average cost is about what 170 USD, right? For I think was a D2 V2 for 720 hours, correct? It
V3, yeah.
was yeah, D2 V3 is about 170 US.
Mm.
Okay, so 170 US is about 600 ringgit, correct? So based on the law that just passed today, 600 ringgit is about what 40% of our minimum base salary, correct? 1,500 per month. But if you take the amount of 170 US and convert it and then look at the salary of someone in the US or Europe, right? EMEA is Europe, Middle East, and Asia lah. So I mean, if you look at US and Europe, how far does 170 USD get you? That may be like what 3 days of someone's wages, 2 days of someone's wages, right? So from a cost perspective, it's the TCO may not be so great, versus I think US and EMEA, because when we factor in labor costs, right, real estate costs, utilities, TNB in Malaysia is one of the lowest in the world in terms of electricity tariff rates, right? Water, food, you know, it just may not make so much, such a great cost. Total cost of owner. I mean, the TCO may not be so great versus, if I was in the US with high labor rates, high wages, high real estate costs, high utilities, right? You know, so I mean, we could look at it from that one angle. I think from another angle, you could also look at it from a skill set perspective, right? Malaysia, we don't have that many people who are well versed in cloud yet, right?
Mhm.
I think with the government just signed the CFA CF Cloud Adoption Framework, right? Cloud adoption framework with the My Digital last week. So I think that would actually be something good, and that will actually drive the adoption of cloud in Malaysia as well,
Very
right?
true, very true. I think especially from the skill set point of view, I think it's on spot lah. Many a times in class, when the first thing I ask the question, what's the first thing that when you say the word cloud, what's the first thing that comes in mind? Then a lot of people will think about the word storage, Dropbox, and then stuff like that. That's the first thing that comes in. That's the only thing they know about cloud. Yeah, yeah, but as we are in the cloud business, yeah, like we're in the cloud business, we know that uh storage is just not the it's not just cloud is just not about storage. It's just not Dropbox and stuff like that. It's just one of the services provided in the cloud, right? And then I think that the skill set and understanding required in order to actually adopt the cloud, it's still lacking. still lacking a lot. Yeah, so that's what I see lah. Other than that, it's actually due to like probably you look into like the government sector, for example, not just government sector, then private sectors as well, to talk about data sovereignty. So when I put stuff into the cloud, for example, then if something went wrong, then who's going to own the data? Who belongs to who right now? Who has control over it? So then, because there's to them, it's still something very grayish to them. They're still not too clear about that. So they rather not move it into the cloud yet until they actually got a confirmation on that particular issue. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think as I'm looking at a couple of questions that came in the chat. So one of them is there a cost analysis between cloud usage and on-premise? From experience, I don't have exact PowerPoint with the numbers to show you today immediately, but from my experience, a lot of times running an on-prem cloud in Malaysia, like for Cloudify, this is actually what we offer to our customers. We offer our customers OPEX model private cloud on customer premise. Most of the time we can offer customers at about approximately 20% or usually over 20% worth of saving versus them hosting it on the cloud. We recently converted a customer who was sitting on AWS, right? And we are actually in the midst of moving them onto the private cloud that will be hosted by us in our data centers, right? And so happened that is also a manufacturing company. Which is kind of falls into the second question. I'm not sure if there's anyone who actually did a study. Probably, I think the best it will have to go and talk to someone, one of those market research firms, right? They will probably be the ones who will who will have these numbers. But frankly, in my opinion, SMEs will be the ones who would actually benefit from modernizing today. I've recently we've been talking to a number of manufacturing companies. Why I say they benefit because like these few customers that we talk to, a lot of the equipment is aging. Aging meaning 5 years and 5 years and above. They are still very, very old school, meaning they even run Microsoft Exchange or their equivalent webmails on-prem, right? And on top of that, a lot of all the systems are all running accounting systems on-prem and everything. So the point that I find is that if we were for them to suddenly give everything up and sign up for cloud, they will have to go through a lot of changes and a lot of getting a sudden increase in cost, one-time cost to do it, which they may not agree upon. My favorite thing that I always tell customers: please sign up for Microsoft 365. Right.
Yes,
Although
agree.
you don't have to sign up with me, sign up with someone else, but please sign up with Microsoft 365. It makes everyone's life easier.
Yes, it's true. It's true. I just want to share an experience that I had with a customer previously on a project. So there was this customer, SME customer. All right. So they have everything on-prem. Basically, they don't really have much of an infrastructure with them. So because it's a second gen taking over the business from the parent, from the father. So what happened is that wants to make things into more digitalized and stuff like that. So thinking that, okay, why not we actually have we want to host our own email server, want to host our own SharePoint, want to host everything themselves. So so they got me in to do a consultation. So I said, okay, let me know the size of the company and what you guys are using currently, what do you have right now, what kind of manpower you have, the skills that you have, and so on and so forth. And after doing so is that my conclusion is that with whatever info that you give me right now, I can only suggest you, I would strongly suggest you to go with M365. Now, although I know that you want to actually host this your own, but because you want to have control, but with what you have right now, it's not so suitable, even though you could, but it's not so suitable to actually host it on-prem. Put it into Microsoft 365, you have all the services that you need, all right? And of course, going through that, I'm losing a job, right? I don't, Microsoft is going to make the money. I'm not going to make the money.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you almost like a free service already. But it's going to be better for you because look at the long run, right? Look at the long run. You pay for what you use, all right? You don't have to take up much of an upfront cost, all right? Maybe you just got to buy the license and stuff like that. So I give them the comparison, okay, of how much it's going to worth, okay, on a long run basis. But until the end of the day, is that their decision is still to go with on-prem. So they decided to, okay, I'm going to go with on-prem file server, on-prem Exchange, SharePoint. That time was Skype for Business, so I'm going to go on-prem for everything. So I said, okay, if this is really what you want, but then with the budget that you have, you've got to get ready, make sure that there's enough of provisioning for your hardware, number one. And also, you please got to make sure you have the correct skill set of people, to maintain this service. Because I could tell you that deploying Exchange and SharePoint and stuff like that, it's not very, very difficult, but to maintain it is another story. All right, the maintenance itself in the store is a monster. All right, so because there are many components being involved, to deliver you this service. So they say okay, and stuff like that. So everything was implemented. So true enough, 6 months down the road, they called, hey Ivan, we have problem not receiving email. I said, what's the problem? Not receiving email, I got stuck. So I went in and checked. He said, yeah, did you actually add additional hard disk? Did you actually get the correct people to actually maintain the service? No, they have not done anything like that. So they asked, how much does it cost to actually then to have an idea like how much does it cost to actually employ a guy to actually maintain these kind of services. So I said with stuff like that, you talk about somewhere a guy with a mid-level experience, at least 5-6 years experience. All right. I said, huh, really? Yeah lah. Now you bought the car, you've got to buy the leash already. You bought the car.
Wow,
You gotta get a
okay.
leash.
Yeah, unfortunately, they can't get any milk or make it into steaks.
No wagyu, no nothing. Yeah. So sometimes they probably saw the part where, okay, I have control, but it's not this kind of infrastructure. This is not something that we just deploy and forget about it. It requires a lot of maintenance. It requires the correct skill set. Yeah. So having to say so is that, yeah, maybe we go into the cloud. Maybe buying the license in Microsoft 365 per se, that in this discussion is that a little bit on the high side, but think of the services and also on the long run that you're just paying for per use, and many other stuff you actually save money already, right? In terms of manpower, in terms of hardware, in terms of like maintenance, you don't have to worry about downtime issues and stuff like that. Yeah, all those can be translated into cost actually.
Okay, so it's like, let's say if our attendees are interested, we do also provide consultation. We have like Ivan and Bert to assist us.
Yes,
okay,
definitely.
Question. Let me go to question 4. So how are you able to scale in and out with minimal downtime on premise?
Okay, I think the answer is how do you able to scale up and down, right? Not in and
Yeah,
out.
that's like a burger joint.
Yeah. I miss in and out, right? But I think that's a good question. How do you scale up and down on your based on your utilization with minimal downtime on premise? So I think the answer to this there'll be two parts, right? So firstly is that if you are running a purely on-prem, right, means you have nothing on the public cloud. Majority of your servers are hosted on-prem. Firstly, what I always like to tell people is please look at right sizing your virtual machines first, right? It's actually something very easy. There are a lot of free tools. There are a lot of free tools available. Um, Yeah, there's a lot of free tools available for you to quickly do an assessment. You can do it from like RV tools, Live Optics, HPE's SAF, assessment foundry tools. Just do a very quick assessment. What is your utilization, right? Frankly, after you do that, a lot of customers will find, oh man, I still have a lot of capacity. Um, most I think 9 out of 10 times is all I need to do now is just to upgrade my RAM, right? Yeah, 9 out of 10 times that's the upgrade the RAM. You can put more servers on it. I mean more virtual machines on your servers. So I would actually look at recommend number one, do that first. Right size your environment. If you need help on it, you can engage us. We are able to help you and give you some advice on what can you do to right size your environment. The second thing is how do you scale up and down? Okay, based on your utilization. For on-prem, unfortunately, it's a bit hard to scale down, because once you have locked in your hardware purchases, you kind of pretty much have locked it in already, right? You can't unbuy a unbuy a server, right? But however, if you look at a few options, like what we do is like we offer like OPEX models for customers, right? Um, we work in conjunction with people like HPE GreenLake, and other firms. We offer OPEX-based solutions to our customers, whereby we can sign a contract, a 2-year contract, 3-year contract for X amount of resources, and if you are going to burst above those resources, we can arrange to have like a temporary servers that to be installed to take up the buffer, you know. So these are solutions that I think a lot of us could probably look at before, as we get ready for our journey to the cloud, right?
Yeah, so if I look into the question, it says that able to scale in and out. Uh, are we thinking about horizontally scaling? All right, horizontal scaling. So on-prem, to have minimal downtime, I think it's almost impossible. Right? You can create clusters, you can create load balancer, you can put in a load balancer and then add in, but they will still be downtime. Yeah, so having said so is that, but when we move into the cloud, that's where we look into the word elasticity. Yeah, so elasticity over here, that's where we can actually scale in and out horizontally with minimal downtime in that sense. But on-prem,
Not possible.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on-prem is more on like a more secure, right? That's what it's saying.
Right.
That's why it's better
Yeah.
sometimes if you want to be able to scale like in and out, up and down, then maybe it's better to have a hybrid cloud instead.
Even to the point where if let's say, okay, I'm gonna, instead of using real actual physical hardware, I have VMs that I can just spin out, but it still take time for you to spin out the VM,
Mm.
right? If I don't need the VM, then the VM will still be there. If I want to take down the VM or I don't need to use the VM will still be there. All right.
Yeah.
So in this case, for you to scale in again, effortlessly is, I think it's not possible.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, it's like a car, right?
Yeah.
On-prem is like, you're buying your own car. If you're carrying, your car as a sedan, you can carry 4 or 5 people, that you can carry up to 5 people at any point in time. But if suddenly, your in-laws come, your extended family comes, like Hari Raya time lah, Chinese New
Yeah.
Year, suddenly
Yeah.
everyone in the whole family drop by. It's like,
The whole
okay,
village come lah,
whole village come, then you be like, okay, what now? I
buy a
need
new
to
car.
rent. You can't exactly go and buy a new car, right? Or rather,
Right.
not many people can afford to buy a new car just for
Hey,
that
bird is
time.
rich lah.
No lah. right? Not everyone can afford to buy a new car at that time, correct? But I think the point is that during that time, that is why services like Grab, like SoCar, it's great because I can temporarily rent the vehicle to use. So, I think there are a lot of companies that actually offer short-term rentals for equipment. I would say, this is probably one of a very large untapped markets that I think a lot of customers, I notice a lot of customers have not thought about it. Can I do a short-term rental for some few servers, right? I just needed to rent it for 2 months or 3 months. Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, fair enough. I will pay, 5,000, 10,000 for the 2 months or 3 months. But the point is that I don't have the risk. It's like, like I said, when you rent a car, it will definitely cost, if you calculate it, okay, if I rent a car for $100 a month, a day, times by 30 days, yeah, it's definitely way more than buying a car. But, you don't need it for 5 years or 7 years, right? You only just need it for that 1 week. Right. So I think that could be also another option to look at, to be able to just temporarily use it for those few months if there's a sudden need, and be able to actually look at how are we going like I said, modernize applications, or how are you going to streamline applications, right? Uh, okay, so I think those I think are my thoughts around this matter.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, if we are still onto the on-premise situation, and you want to actually have say per se that you want to scale in and out, up and down and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that will be the only viable solution that we have.
Rent server.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think that is, like I said, I feel that is a very it's untouched market, or less, so
Yeah.
a portion of the market that it has less focus, right?
Correct. One of the things is that I think also is that probably here locally, we still have that mindset that we need to own a lot of things, or we need to own it before we can use it, instead of like, subscribing or rent, having it leased or rental. Yeah.
Yes, an investment.
Well,
Okay. Let's move on to question 5. I
Mm.
think question 5 might be a bit associated with the one of the questions. If I don't need any advanced features such as AI analytics, do I need cloud?
okay, so
I've got this answer, very quick one, before Bert actually jumps
okay,
in.
okay. Never mind, right, you
Okay.
answer first this time.
Okay, so say for example, right, nowadays all of us use a smartphone lah. All right, do you use all the features in a smartphone?
No.
So then why you want to buy the latest and greatest?
Because
Because it comes free in my phone plan.
But we still use
to
smartphone,
give
right?
it right to the what everyone is doing, because then the software that's updated also. Let's say if you get a new phone, then every time they update the software, then sometimes it becomes slower. You want something that's faster, so you don't really want to have to be so outdated that everything is slow.
Right. So so this kind of answer the questions as well. It's like, yes, in the cloud there's so many features, but it doesn't mean that you need to use each and every single service in the cloud. Just like you also subscribe to probably Netflix or Disney Plus, but do you watch all the channels? Do you watch everything inside?
Yes, you must, to maximize it. We are Asian. We will maximize it.
Are you working or you watching movie? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think like what you said is true. It's like, I think the point is, if you do not need, even if you don't need all the features in cloud, as the bottom line is, is cloud able to offer you what you need at a and you are happy with the service, right?
Yes.
Uh, you know, because uh, because there are other benefits besides that, I mean, from going cloud is, of course, number one, instead of I don't have to have my own data center, my real estate, my people can, I don't need to have so many people focusing on the infrastructure. They can focus more on the application side and so on. But to me, one of the best advantages of cloud is that if one day, right, you need you want to try out these features, you want to try out AI, you want to try out analytics, you want to try out maybe
IoT.
IoT or whatever,
Yeah.
right? You have the option to.
Yes.
Okay, you have the option to try it out based on your data, for it to analyze your current data, your current databases, data sets, and so on. Of course, then comes the, I think, back to the question asked, is with the growth of data center capacity in Malaysia grow up, or still use cloud. So this is a chicken and I think this is a chicken egg or tricky question in the sense whereby if you have not built your analytics on the cloud with a small data set to try it out, no company is willing to invest millions of dollars into equipment to run it on-prem, on larger data sets, right? So no matter what, I mean, this is what I see with a lot of customers as well. No matter what, everyone starts the AI analytics on the cloud because it's fast, it's much cheaper to give it a try, and you don't have to, come up with so much money just to get it all started off. Then once you have built that, okay, this works, this is useful for me, you can bring that engine down from the cloud on-prem and run it on-prem on your secured data sets, on your secured data, on your data that you don't want to be exposed to the cloud, and so on, right? So that's what I see when it comes down to AI, HPC. I mean, maybe also, I think maybe that's why big data is kind of waning in that sense. All right, you know. Um, However, of course, the other joke is that if you run it in the cloud, it's always the cloud is always someone else's data center. It's not your own data center, right? But it's still a data center.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think then especially if you're running like AI now, um, if you're good luck in finding NVIDIA GPUs today. It's so hard to get your hands on one, right? If you're going to get A100 or even the A40s, you probably have like 6 month waiting list in order to get it. Whereas, like I say, if you need to do some testing or quick validation of what you're working on, the cloud is all. I still believe the cloud is the best destination for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially if you want it to be done quick, instead of like setting up on your own, it's up and there running for you already.
Yeah, yeah. I just wonder one thing: has anyone done a TCO of using the GPUs on cloud to mine bitcoins? Will you make money, or rather, at what cost, at what price of Bitcoin will you make money?
No
The,
idea.
the first one will make money, I think, will be the cloud lah. The amount of resources they're gonna use.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a fun thought, Probably
Yeah.
like to
Yeah.
go find our friends in Azure and AWS and sit down. Okay, if I were to mine bitcoins on your cloud, how much do I for every $1,000 of compute power? How many bitcoins can I get?
Interesting.
Interesting thought, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, just for the heck of it. I really wonder if anyone done a TCO on it.
Maybe you should do it, then you get back to us on it.
I'll only get back to you if it doesn't make money.
Maybe someone tried already. He mined Bitcoin and the electricity bill always go up the roof.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember when I used to buy bitcoins years ago. I got kicked out of a few data centers because I was sucking up all the power.
Oh my God. Are you on the blacklist? Okay, so last questions we have. Must I commit to cloud for life? Can I require divorce cloud later on or not? What do you guys think? Who would like to talk about commitment and divorces? Let the guys talk about it.
It's just a piece of paper.
Oh, you don't say that.
Yeah, well,
Commitment. It's a diamond ring.
I think the reality of the matter is that um at, at a certain point, right? I think if you look in the news, at a certain point, some very large companies start to move out of the cloud. And then created their own data centers to support it. So, like for example, if you look at like I think one of the early ones was actually LinkedIn, right? The other one is Dropbox. Dropbox is another one where they went hybrid, whereby half is on cloud, half is on-prem, on their prem, sorry, their own premise. However, you also have I think Volkswagen Group, Volkswagen AG, years ago also, they were on the cloud and then they decided to move part of it out of the cloud again, due to cost and control reasons, right? So I believe end of the day, um, can you divorce a cloud? Can, and anytime you can. But do you know what are you going to do in order to manage it? Do you have the team ready to take it on? Because when you move to the cloud, you don't need to have a mechanical engineer, right? Or you don't need a facilities manager to manage your building. You don't need to worry. Don't need a mechanical engineer or electrical engineer to look at your power consumption, power distribution for your data centers. Can you find the real? You have to go and find the real estate and talk to the government to ensure that they can supply you enough power into your facility. Because if you're running, let's say, for example, 100 racks of equipment, right? You're easily going to be sucking around what 50 kilowatts, 60 kilowatts, or actually, I think probably be closer to around 100 kilowatts these days, right? So there are going to be a lot of arguments of, can you divorce cloud later? The answer is always yes, but you must know what you're going to be doing. You must know what is your next plan,
What is the
right?
main purpose? You have to find out what's the main purpose you want to divorce from the cloud.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like today, if I were to tell you, okay, everyone has to give up their smartphone, right? Yeah, everyone has to go back to a Nokia 3310. Yeah,
The
Nokia
one with the snake.
3310. Yeah, and then we only can play Snake, make calls and send SMS using T9 inputs.
Yeah.
Right? I think Joshana is a bit too young for this to understand all of this.
I know Snake though. Snake I know.
Okay, Snake, okay. I think if you want to go back to those days, like then you'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, uh, I just need to make calls. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
WhatsApp. You can't WhatsApp.
Unless there's a valid reason for them to divorce from the cloud, most likely to go back on-prem, right? I think people who has been benefiting from the cloud itself will want to think really hard. Are they going to do that or not? Most likely, I think they probably will not. Probably they will go for hybrid instead of like 100% back on-prem again. Yeah, because things like the features that they can get from elasticity, for example, right? The high availability they can get from it, all right, in terms of performance, and also the things that they've been benefiting so much from it. If they've been enjoying all this benefit, I think it's going to be quite difficult, or probably the answer will be no, I'm not going to divorce from the cloud. I've been enjoying all this kind of stuff, right? But like I said, unless it's like a very valid reason, probably sometimes could be like compliance issue and things like that.
Oh, okay. But then even so, it's not really divorce completely, right? Because if you actually divorce completely, then you're kind of like taking a step backwards instead.
But again, like I said, it's like what Bert said as well. It's like, is it possible to like that really divorce? Of course, it's possible. All right, of course, it's possible. Are you ready for it? Is the
Yeah.
next question or not?
Think of the consequences.
Yeah, yeah.
Good luck.
think properly.
Yeah. And also I think from what I see, I mean read from what I see over the years, it's only those companies that have very large IT footprints that I have found they have a very good I think from a total cost of ownership perspective, that for them to actually move away from cloud back to on-prem. I think like for most of us, many SMEs, whereby if you are having an IT team of like three people, five people, is it really cost effective to move out of the cloud yet?
Mm.
Maybe not, right? But I mean, if you have an IT team of like in those large multinational companies have like thousands of people worldwide, yeah, probably they can justify it, right?
Okay. All right. I think thanks, Bert and Ivan. I think that was our last questions. So before all of you guys, go home and whatever, please help to fill out the feedback form, because when you fill out the feedback form, we can probably also offer you an assessment. So try to take your time a little bit. Then let me explain also how we're going to offer a free assessment. How we're going to do it. So we will actually schedule a date and time, maybe to run some tests on your environment. And then based on the result of the test, we then can come up with a report for you, so you can gauge how ready are you to migrate to cloud. So there's no obligation on anything. If you think like your company, you think maybe might need it, or you would like to know, then you can fill in the feedback form, then we'll provide you with the assessment. All right.
Yep.
So I think thanks, Bert and Ivan, for your time, and thank you everyone for joining. I hope you guys enjoyed this session, because I enjoy it a lot. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. We will be holding similar sessions on different topics, as over the next few months, right? So please do join us whenever we have our next session. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for
Thank you,
joining. Yeah.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.